Hello and welcome to another video in my Hackintosh series. If you followed the previous 4 videos, you'll be in the same situation that I'm in here, where we've got macOS Big Sur operating and installed on our Lenovo M93p Haswell tiny computer. So as you can see, you should be pretty much the same as this. So you've got macOS Big Sur, we've got Intel HD 4600 graphics and at least 8 gigs of RAM. Now the object of this video is we're going to upgrade Big Sur to Sequoia, which is the latest version. Well, it's not the latest version of macOS, but it's the latest version of macOS that we can install on this system, and hopefully we'll get the graphics sorted and everything working perfectly. So without further ado, let's crack on and get this upgrade sorted. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is actually update OpenCore that's running on this system. So to do that, we go to internet and we search for a package called OpenCore OCAuxillaryTools. And there we go. This should open a GitHub repository, and you go to the right hand side and you scroll down to releases and just download the latest release. DMG. Oh, I've already opened it. Shouldn't take too long. It's not that big. Cool. And then we also need a updated OpenCore package. So OpenCore, just type in OpenCore install guide. If you followed the previous videos, you know this website well. So this is the official website for OpenCore. Click on Get Started, click on Create the USB and OpenCore package, and we want the latest released archive there. Excellent. So we've got those two packages. We can close these windows. So if we go to downloads, and if we just unzip the OpenCore package, and then we double click on the ocAuxillaryTools, and we'll just drag that to our desktop, and we'll drag the archive to the bin. Excellent. So this is the tool we're going to use to do some upgrades on our config.plist and actual OpenCore, and we need a tool in the OpenCore release to actually add to our OpenCore boot. So the first thing we need to do is jump into a terminal and mount the EFI folder from the hard drive. So the EFI folder is where all the config is stored for our Mac, and it's hidden on a secret secret folder on the hard drive, so we have to unlock it so we can access it. So if you type in disk util list, this is our hard drive here, disk 0, and there's our EFI folder, and we just need to copy the identifier from there. There we go. And type in sudo disk util mount, and we just paste in that identifier. Ask for your password, and that's mounted. So if we go to the OpenCore release, go to x64, EFI, OC, tools. Now these are all the tools you can actually add to the boot menu. The one we need is ClearNVRAM. So just highlight that and copy. And if we go to our EFI folder, which is the one on our hard drive, we'll go to EFI, go to OC, then go to tools. You notice it's empty, so we paste the item into tools. Now if we open up auxiliary tools. If you double click on it, it won't work because it'll say it's not authorized by Apple. If you right click on it and click on open, it'll allow you to open it. Excuse me. Okay, so this is the auxiliary tools. So you need to go back to your EFI folder and just drag the config.plist over to that window there, and that loads up the config. Okay, so this is the working config we've got on our hard drive. It's saying we're using OpenCore 08.8. So we need to go to Edit and Upgrade OpenCore. So first thing to do is update the KEXTs. So we just highlight them all here. Check for KEXT updates. We'll go and check the ones that need updating. Okay, so there's 2 that need updating. So just click on Update KEXT. Okay, that's all green. Now on the right hand side, we just need to click on Get the latest version of OpenCore. And then, there you go, current version is 107. And then we'll click on Start Sync. And that's updated that. Now we need to add that tool that we've just added. So if we go to our miscellaneous tab on the left hand side and we'll go to tools at the top, you'll see currently we've got no tools added. So just right click, add item, you go to your EFI folder, EFI, OC, tools, and ClearNVRAM, open. Just ensure that enabled is set to true. And there we go. Now we do file, save, and I'll save our updated config. Then I'll do a validation straight away, and it'll come back with a couple of issues. There's no problem, we can fix these straight away. So it's saying UEFI drivers picker mode is not set to external. Okay, so we go to MISC again. No, is it UEFI? Yeah, it's UEFI. So click on, oh, where was it? MISC actually, boot. There we go. So click on MISC and boot, and you see here, picker mode is currently set to built-in. It needs to be set to external. And what was the next one? Drivers load early needs to be set to false. So click on UEFI at the bottom, click on drivers at the top, and that's set to false, that's set to false, that's set to true, so we'll set that to false, and file, save. Excellent. Now if we do a manual validation, it should come back all okay. So what we've done there is we've updated the KEXTs, we've updated OpenCore to 107, we've added the tool, NVRAM cleaner, and we've sorted out a couple of issues with the current config. Excellent. So if we just close this and close that, and we go back to our terminal, and we just run the same command again, but instead of mounting that EFI volume, we unmount. That's unmounted. Excellent. So let's just do a reboot. And that updated OpenCore should take effect. It should just have no issues, should boot straight back into Big Sur, but with an updated version of OpenCore, which we'll need to install Sequoia. That's the new updated boot menu. You can see that AMFI clean tool was added to the end of it, so we'll need that later. There we go. That's a good start. So I haven't broken it. Okay, that's rebooted. So now we need to actually create our install USB disk. So we need a USB flash drive. It does recommend at least 16 gigabytes. I did try a 16 gig, but it complained that there wasn't enough space on it. So to be safe, I'm using a 32 gigabyte USB. So just plug that into your Lenovo. And it should just pop up on the desktop. There we go. Now I recommend, to save a lot of head scratching and heartache later, to manually format that USB stick before we start anything. So just open up a terminal. And first thing we do is do a disk util and list. You'll see that we have a disk 2 external physical. That is our USB disk. This one has got an EFI folder on it, which is good. But the actual install process does not create that folder for you, so you need to make sure you've got an EFI volume already there. If you haven't, it's best off just to do a quick format. So do disk util, erase disk. We want exFAT. We want to call it USB again, so to avoid confusion. We want to have a GPT partition table, and the disk we want to format is this one here, the external USB disk. So dev disk 2, never disk 0. Disk 0 is always your operating system. So that will quickly go and format that USB again for us. I recommend you do that anyway, just to save heartache. And if we go to list again, you'll see we're back where we were, a blank USB disk. Excellent. Right, so what we need now is actual install media. So if you go to Firefox or Safari and do a search for a website called Mr. Hackintosh. And this website here is just a blog post, and it contains a list of all the Apple update archives. So go to Sequoia installers, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, and you just want the install assistant, the latest one, and just download that. It is 15.6 gigabytes, so it does take a while to download depending on your internet speed. So once that is downloaded, you just need to go to your downloads folder, and there we go, and we just need to install it. So just double click on continue, click on install. It'll ask you for your password. That's done. Now to create the actual install disk, open up another tab and search for macOS bootable USB. And the first thing that should pop up will be an Apple support page titled Create a Bootable Installer. Click on that, scroll down, and we are going to be installing Sequoia. So if we copy that entire line there, and we go to our terminal, and we just paste it in. Right, so instead of my volume at the end, just delete that and put in what we called our USB stick, and we just called it USB. So that's /volumes/USB, and press enter. Ask for your password, and then that will go and format the the floppy drive, not floppy drive, what is it, 1980s? It will format the USB disk, relabel it there, and then copy the entire install media across. It's copying about 16 gigs, so it will take about 10 minutes to copy. But once it's copied, we can carry on. I'll be back once it's copied across. Okay, so that's the install media created. Now we need to basically put some EFI data onto the USB stick. But before we do that, we need to update some of the config in the EFI because it's currently set to Big Sur, and we need to update the config to enable Sequoia. So the first thing we need to do is take a copy of the working Big Sur config. So we just do a disk util list, and EFI for the working operating system is here, so we copy that label and we do sudo su, well, not sudo su, sudo disk util mount hard drive EFI volume, and we go to Finder and we go to EFI and we just copy that to the desktop. Okay, we're finished with the hard drive volume, so we unmount it. And we load up auxiliary tools. And go to OC in the EFI folder and just drag our working config to the tool. Oh. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is change what system we're using. So currently we're set to use an iMac 14,4, which works for Big Sur, but Sequoia will complain saying your Mac is too old, I cannot update to Sequoia. So we can change this to anything really. I'll set it to iMac 20, 1, and because we've changed it, we need to update our board numbers and serial numbers. There we go. Now in MISC and security, we have to ensure that secure boot is set to disabled. And we go to NVRAM and number 3, which is that one there. On the boot args, double click on there. We need to add an extra string on the end. And this is a convoluted string, so bear with me. It is, so just put a space at the end and type in AMFI underscore get underscore out underscore of underscore my underscore way equals 0x1. So that's AMFI get out of my way equals 0x1. And click on enter. Now we have to do something called disable the SIP. SIP is an internal Apple security feature that will block any patching we need to do in the next step. So under CSR active config, double click on that, delete that entire string, and we're going to replace that with this number here, which is specific to Sequoia. It is 0308 0000. So 0308 0000 and press enter. And don't forget to save the config file. Save. Now we need to copy this to the USB disk. So again, we just open up disk util, disk to EFI is there. So we use that all command there, but instead of using disk 0, we use disk 2. Simply drag the EFI folder to there. That was quick. And then we unmount the disk. Let's see, just double check it's in there, so that was a quick copy. Yep, all seems to be there. So we unmount the disk. So everything's ready for our install. So we'll go to restart and restart. So the computer's rebooting. It should boot into the recovery menu. There we go, and quickly move across to install macOS Sequoia and press enter. And there we go. This will do all its stuff, its decompression, and boot into the standard macOS install utility. Yeah, it will take a while on this validating base image because it's checking the install that it's correct and there's no errors. There we go, pretty rapid. I'm actually installing this on an internal SSD because I did the motherboard SSD mSATA mod, so there's a working mSATA port on the motherboard, so it should be a bit quicker than using a SATA spinning drive. There we go, so we are into the recovery image. So we'll go first to disk utility. Don't know why I've got two volumes there. We will erase and we'll delete that volume. Yep. So this is my internal mSATA, and we will erase that. Leave it as mSATA. And it's done. Okay. So we close that, and then we go to install Sequoia. Click on continue. This is where you need a working internet connection, so you need Ethernet plugged in. If you get to the accept the user agreement, then it means your internet connection is working. There we go, so we agree there, and then we agree up here. I want to install it to the hard drive. Click on continue, and there we go. It will go through its install process. It will take about 20 minutes. It should reboot 3 or 4 times, and you should not have to touch the keyboard or come back to it until the final stage, where you have to input your location and your username and stuff like that. So we'll come back once we're at that stage. Okay, so that was the final reboot. It rebooted 4 times, I believe. Didn't have to touch the keyboard once, and we are straight into the setup for macOS. So bear with me as I scoot through this. You'll notice the system is slow, and that's because of the outdated graphics card. That's well, integrated graphics that we're using, but that will be fixed as soon as we get into macOS. Okay, here's a new Mac, so we don't want to copy anything. Don't want to set up that. Okay. Oh. Setting up an account. Okay, this is taking a while, but it's still working. This graphics issue will slow down the entire system until we've fixed it. Basically, modern versions of macOS use their Metal API instead of DirectX and OpenGL, and the more recent versions of Metal API are not compatible with the Intel HD 4600 graphics. So what we have to do is we have to patch the libraries to be compatible with the older graphics card. We don't want to set up an Apple account. Yes, we want to skip. Yes, so until we set up the patch, the graphics are basically being software rendered, so that's why it's slow. Don't use, turn all this off later. Okay, we are in Londinium. No. Oh, there is a lot of nonsense to set up. Okay, we'll go to dark theme. It won't have any effect because we'll be stuck with a white background for a second. And this should boot into the, yep, asking me what kind of keyboard I have. Yep. Continue. Done. Right, like when we installed Big Sur, at the moment we need the USB stick to boot the operating system, which isn't far from ideal. So we need to copy the EFI from the USB to the hard drive, and that means we don't need the USB stick anymore. So that's the first port of call. So the first thing we do is we go to terminal. So we just type in terminal there. And you'll probably guess what we need to do. We need to disk util list. Our physical drive is disk 2 EFI, so we copy that. Sudo sudo disk util mount our USB EFI volume with our password. We'll go to the EFI volume, which you can't see because it's white on white, and we'll just copy that. To the desktop. Excellent. And then we unmount that EFI volume. It took a while. And now we need to mount the hard drive, which is that one there. So same command, and it's disk 0S1. mounted. We go to Finder, go to the EFI volume, we will delete that, move to bin, and we will move the desktop one onto the hard drive. Excellent. Now we'll keep that mounted. Do we need to keep that mounted? No, we don't need to keep that mounted actually. So now we just need to unmount. Unmounted. Okay, so now we need to patch our graphics card. So if I just go to About This Mac, everything looks okay, but when you go down to graphics, we're only using 7 megabytes of memory. So basically we're just doing software rendering until we can use the graphics card itself. So we open up the internet and we search for OpenCore Legacy Patcher. There we go. Click on Get Started. I think it's that one there. Download and install. Legacy Patcher Release Apps. Backwards mouse again, thank you Apple. And we just download OpenCore patcher.package. Say that fast. There we go. Hello. Let's see how big it is. It is 700 megabytes. So I'll be back when it's finished. Okay, so our patcher is now downloaded. So if we go to our downloads folder, there it is. We just need to install it. So double click, allow, and continue. This is why we need to update the graphics, because it's all very slow. Come on. There we go. Okay. So this is installing the patcher into our applications. Okay. We'll keep it just in case. So if we go to applications, there we go, and there's our patcher. So we just double click on that. And then we need to go to the top right, which is post install root patch. Click on there. Okay, so we've got an issue. It's detecting we've got Haswell graphics, but it's saying our SIP, system integrity protection, is still enabled, even though we turned it off in the config.plist. Okay, so let's fix that issue. Return to main menu. We'll just get out of there and we'll just close that. So the first thing we need to do is download auxiliary tools again. So we'll open up Safari and we'll do a search for ocAuxillaryTools, newest release, download the disk image. Excellent. Go back to downloads, expand the disk image, drag that to the desktop, shut that down. Now, because we're going to be modifying the EFI, we need to mount our EFI volume. So disk util list, and our EFI volume is disk 0 as usual. We won't even temp that, so we'll do sudo disk util mount disk 0s1. Disk 0s1. Press enter, and that's mounted. So if we shut that down and right click on auxiliary tools and click on open, it may complain that it needs permissions. There we go. So what we do now is we just go to system preferences at the bottom, go to security, privacy and security, and then all the way to the bottom it should say, there we go, auxiliary tools was blocked. We'll open anyway, and open anyway, type in your password, and there we go. So now we go to File, Open, EFI, OC, and config. Not the drivers, config, open. There we go. We go to NVRAM and go down to 7C. Okay, so CSR active config is set correctly there. But if we go to delete, there's nothing in there. So we add an item, exactly the same name, CSR active config. So what this is saying is when we run that NVRAM clear tool that we installed, it will delete all the configs in memory and then reload the ones that are in here. So maybe that will save it. So we'll file, save the file, and exit, and exit, and then we'll unmount the EFI file folder. And then we'll do a sudo reboot. Now when this reboots, the first thing we need to do is clear the NVRAM using that tool that we installed all that time ago. So when the menu comes up, move across to clear NVRAM and select enter, and it's rebooted, so we'll click on that and then turn it back on. And we'll boot from the hard drive. So we've cleared the NVRAM. Hopefully we forced the new settings, and hopefully SIP will be gone. It's always a good sign. Excellent. Okay, it's forgotten what keyboard I'm using. Now to check if SIP has been disabled, go to a terminal and you type CSRUtil space status. And there we go, it's now disabled. So if we go back to our patcher, so applications, OpenCore patcher, and post install root patch, click on that, and there we go, start root patching. So as you see, it's downloading the new library for Metal, and it's patching the Metal library on the OS, so it uses the old integrated graphics. It's looking good. And then it should ask you to reboot the system in a second. And everything will be a lot quicker. It would be good if it had a progress bar, but let's live with it. It shouldn't be too much longer now. There it goes, overwriting all the metal lib files. Well, it's definitely been an adventure. Okay, we will allow it to update the system extension, and we will reboot. Restart. Now, touch wood. This should be a nice background, not a white one anymore, and we should have full hardware acceleration. No, I don't want EFI, I want MSATA. Again, good sign. And there we go. My mouse is a bit slow. So let's see if we can make the display a little bit smaller so you can see. Display. There we go. So we'll crack that down to 720. And if I go to about this Mac, cool. So it's an iMac, 2 gigahertz CPU, Intel HD graphics, 4600 with 1.5 gigs of graphics memory. So it's recognising a built-in graphics card or HD graphics. It's only got 8 gigs of actual system memory. I recommend 16 gigs probably for Sequoia. It's a bit more bloated than Big Sur, but 8 gigs should be okay. Yeah, so you've now got a fully working Sequoia install on a 12-year-old Lenovo mini PC. These are a great way to get into the Mac OS. See if you like Mac OS. I particularly don't like it, but there we go. I'm a Linux man. So if you want to get into Mac OS cheaply, especially these days with the prices of the new computers through the roof because of the massive memory dearth and hard drive buying by the likes of OpenAI, this is a quick and easy way of getting into the Mac environment. And I think DDR3 RAM is still pretty inexpensive because no one's using it anymore. So yeah, this is a great way to get into Mac OS. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I've seen lots of videos on YouTube about Hackintosh and updating and getting into Sequoia, but none of them covered all the bases. A lot of them left lots of key information out, like how to fully disable SIP and the settings for the EFI. So hopefully this is a complete package. So if you watch the previous 4 videos, you'll get Big Sur installed, and this video you should be able to upgrade it with no issues whatsoever. And yeah, that's me signing out. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment. If you want to, please subscribe. That'd be a great help. I'm trying to grow this channel. Yeah, and if you have any problems, let me know. If you want any more videos making, again, let me know, and we'll go through it together. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.